with a broader group, probably 3 or 4 dozen folks. I'll tell you pretty much the same thing I told them, and then I'll take a couple questions, which is this is an ordinary course of business in Washington, D.C. What you're witnessing today at CFPB happens at every single agency, every single couple of years, which is a transition. It just so happens that CFPB has never been through a transition before. It was inevitable at some point. It was either going to be now or in July that Mr. Cordray left and Mr. Trump was going to get a chance, President Trump was going to get a chance to put someone in this position. So I had a chance to walk through with a lot of folks here who had not been through transition what they should expect. They should expect that this agency will stay open. Rumors that I'm going to set the place on fire or blow it up or lock the doors are completely false. I'm a member of the executive branch of government. We intend to execute the laws of the United States, including the provisions of Dodd-Frank that govern the CFPB. That being said, the way we go about it, the way we interpret it, the way we enforce it will be dramatically different under the current administration than it was under the last. Anybody who thinks that a Trump administration CFPB would be the same as an Obama administration Trump CFPB is simply being naive. Elections have consequences at every agency, and that includes the CFPB. I don't have specifics yet on how that's going to translate into action in terms of that new attitude that we're taking here at CFPB in light of the fact that the Trump administration is now in charge. But I will tell you the same thing I told these folks today is what's happening immediately. Effective today, we've put something similar in place here to what we did across the entire executive branch at the outset of the administration. I think at the outset of the administration, we did a 90-day hiring freeze. We've put a 30-day hiring freeze here at CFPB. Probably more importantly, we put a 30-day immediate freeze on any new rules, regulation, and guidance. Anything that's in the pipeline stops for at least 30 days while I get a chance to see exactly what's going on and kick the tires here at the Bureau. Additionally, there'll be no payments out of the civil penalties fund for at least 30 days while I get a chance to see what's happening with that. I think there's in excess of $50 million in that fund, and I want to give a handle on what that fund is all about before we start making any distributions. There's going to be obvious, important exceptions to this. I had a chance to talk with legal some today and enforcement today on some things that are going on in existing lawsuits. I'll be briefed tomorrow on the roughly, I think there's 100 or so lawsuits that the agency, that the Bureau is involved with. I get briefed on that tomorrow. Clearly, if there are statutory deadlines, those will continue to be met. If there are legal deadlines as part of litigation, those will be met. But in terms of anything that is discretionary, we're putting a 30-day hold on it here. Other than that, it's really too early to say how things are going to be different. I'll be briefed tomorrow on not only the lawsuits, but the enforcement action, some of the investigations, some of the rulemaking that is in the pipeline. So I'll have more idea tomorrow as to what some of the next steps may be. Lastly, and then I'll take some questions, folks have asked me if I'm going to be here. Some folks in the press have asked that. Some folks here at the agency, excuse me, I keep saying agency, I apologize, the Bureau have asked. Yeah, the President has made it very clear he wants me here, and honestly, since my name's on the door now, I want to be here. I don't want anything coming out of here that I don't know about because it inevitably be linked to me anyway, so I want it to be good quality work that this administration can be proud of. So I'm going to be here roughly 3 days a week and be across the street at OMB about 3 days a week. I recognize that adds up to more than 5 days a week, but that's just life. I've been a small business owner before. I've slept at the office. I've worked 16-hour days. I've worked 7 days a week. It's not something new. If you've started your own business, I've done it more than once. You know that working a little extra isn't that big a deal in the final scheme of things. So with that, we'll take some questions for a couple minutes, if that's all right.
Director Mulvaney,
yes, sir.
You had the opportunity to meet with the President earlier today. What did he tell you about what he wants from this meeting?
He wants me to fix it. He wants me to get it back to the point where it can protect people without trampling on capitalism, without choking off the access to financial services that are so critical to so many folks, and so many folks actually in the lower and the middle classes, folks who are trying to start their own businesses, people who are trying to break out, people trying to get credit for the very first time. We need to figure out a way to both follow the law and protect citizens as set forth in the Act, but do so in such a fashion that doesn't choke off the access to capital. What does that mean? The access to money that is important for so many people to succeed in their small business, in their private lives, and so forth. So that's the charge he's given me. We both share the belief that this particular bureau under the previous administration had gone too far over towards strangling access to capital, making it difficult for financial services to flow, and as a result, folks that we want to try and help were hurt. We're going to try and fix that.
Did he give you a sense of how long he expects you to be in this temporary position?
I think that's probably going to be up to the Senate more than anybody else. I know that the President is interested in naming a permanent replacement as quickly as possible and as quickly as the quality of the candidates allows. My guess is you'll see fairly swift movement on that. That being said, swift movement on the President's part has very rarely translated into swift movement on the Senate's part, so we'll see how long it actually takes. Yes, sir. We'll just go across the room.
Thank you. Barney Jobson with the Financial Times.
Yes, sir.
First, are you concerned that the district court could introduce some kind of injunction to stop you continuing this role?
Not concerned. I mean, the court can do whatever the court is going to do. That's fine. I've read the legal opinion of not only the Department of Justice, but more interestingly, not more interestingly, as interestingly, the legal opinion of the General Counsel here that says the President's right. So my guess is the court will hear the same arguments from capable folks. If the court decides to issue a temporary restraining order, order me not to come in the building, I will absolutely follow the law. I want to make that perfectly clear. We follow the law around here. That's what we do in the executive branch. I'm not concerned about it. I'm going forward tonight and tomorrow, assuming that I'm here, and I'll be here until either the court or the President tells me otherwise.
And just second thing was, to what extent are your criticisms of the Bureau reflective of your kind of ideological commitment to small government?
I don't know how to answer that question. I'll talk about my previous statements about the Bureau. How about that? Yeah, my opinion of the structure of the CFPB has not changed. I still think it's an awful example of a bureaucracy that has gone wrong when it is almost entirely unaccountable to the people that are supposed to oversee it or supposed to pay for it. I still have the same fundamental principled misgivings about the way this Bureau is structured. I think it is wrong to have a completely unaccountable federal bureaucracy. I think it's completely wrong. By the way, I'm just learning about the powers that I have as acting director. They would frighten most of you. They would probably worry you to think about how little oversight Congress has over me now as I'm the director, how little oversight the committees have over how CFPB functions. If you've really studied the constitutional nature of our government, you study the way that the bureaucracy is supposed to work, it would both frighten and disturb you that this agency is as independent as it is. And it doesn't surprise me, by the way, that this, to the extent we're having a succession challenge, as lodged by Ms. English, it doesn't surprise me that grows out of an agency that thinks it's not accountable to anybody in the first place. So no, none of that has changed. That being said, I can't change a lot of it because it's statutory. It's up to Congress to fix it. I'm running the agency as the law sets forward. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. That's okay. I do have a quick follow-up to that question, and I do have a different question. But you have called the agency in the past a sick, sad joke. So how can you ensure the American people that you are the right person to lead this agency?
Yeah, actually, I think you go back and you look at the line. I think it was a joke in a sick, sad kind of way, which is slightly different. But again, the sentiment is the same. The reasons that I said that, the reasons that I still believe that this agency is flawed, are things that I think people back home would agree with. Is that, look at it this way, and this is how I explain it to people here today. When I was in Congress, if the CFPB did something to you back home that you did not like, okay, there was literally nowhere for you to turn for redress. You could not call your senator. You could not call the congressman. In fact, or the House of Representatives, you couldn't even call the president, because the only reason the president could fire the director is for cause. It is a completely unaccountable agency, and I think that's wrong. I think that citizens should always have some ability to hold the bureaucracy accountable, and they can't here. And that's why I think we need structural and legislative change to the way this place is run. That being said, that's outside the bounds of the director to fix. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you find this power struggle between yourself and Leandra English to be awkward in any way? I know you said today went smoothly from your perspective, but do you find this power struggle, this battle?
I think it's more awkward for the people who work here and the people who know her. I don't know her. Haven't met her. She actually, I think I read a couple of headlines said there were 2 folks who showed up today at work claiming to be director. I can assure you there was one person today who showed up at work claiming to be director. She wasn't here. And I think it's more uncomfortable for the folks that know her and work here, not knowing what the future holds. But again, she's a private citizen. She has the right to do what she did. I understand she brought the lawsuit in her private capacity. I assume she's paying for her own lawyers because the CFPB is not. The CFPB did not approve that lawsuit. So to the extent she's purporting to be acting in her role here, I think that's not accurate. But she has the right to do that. And again, we'll move on here and let the courts do as they will.
So she didn't come to work.
I did not see her here today at all. And I've been here since 7:30.
Have you had any contact with her? Or?
I have not, but if it's okay, I'm just going to go this way. Is that right? That way I don't have to pick. Yeah.
Did you receive any, in your meetings with Bureau staffers today, do you receive any pushback against some of your views about the Bureau's work?
No, folks ask questions, and listen, I'm very candid with them. And I told them, look, I'm not here to shut the place down because the law doesn't allow me to do that. That being said, we're going to run it differently than the previous administration did, and I think they appreciated that. I think they appreciate the candor. These are professional people. A lot of these folks, even if they've been here 5 years, have been in government for 10 or 15 or 20. There's a lot of folks here who have come from other agencies. So they're very professional. They know the gig, for lack of a better word. So I hope they appreciated the candor. I appreciated the candor they showed to me. It was extraordinarily professional, and I have absolutely no complaints. I hope they don't either. Yes, ma'am.
If the law did allow you to shut it down, would you?
If the law allowed this place not to exist, I'd sit down with the president and try and make the case that other agencies can probably do this job just as, or if not more effectively. That being said, if I had the chance to change it, to put it on appropriations and to subject to oversight to Congress, I'd do that as well. I have none of that flexibility as the director of this agency, of this bureau. Yes, sir.
Just a couple things. Do you have any plan for her ongoing appointment, referring to the deputy director here? And also, did you have any specific regulations you can address while you're here waiting for permanent replacement?
To your last point first, no, I'm not in a position yet. I hope to be by the end of this week. I'll be here all day tomorrow and then all day Thursday, getting a chance to go through the regs that are in the pipeline and so forth. I think stuff that's out the door is pretty much, I don't think there's very much that I can do about it. Once it's gone from here, finally gone from here, I think the next step in the review process, for lack of a better word, would be a CRA, as much as I think the president just signed today on the arbitration rule and so forth. So that's the ordinary course of business, and we are going to follow the ordinary course of business around here. Regarding Ms. English, again, I don't know, haven't met her. In the ordinary world, if you don't call, you don't show, you don't have a job the next day, but I'm not sure how it works here, so I have to find out what that's all about. Yes, ma'am.
Senator Warren has been critical of your leadership of this bureau, and today the president referred to her as Pocahontas.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a reaction to that?
No, I think the president's called her that a couple times before. That's probably not the last time he's called her that. I did think it was interesting that I have not seen the lawsuit yet. I want to make it clear. I don't know if I've been named as a defendant. I've heard a rumor that I have, but that I have been named. I've not seen the lawsuit, nor have been served with it. So I'm speculating about what's actually in the lawsuit. But I have read accounts that one of the assertions is that this agency needs to be independent. Yet at the same time, I hear today media reports that Ms. English is on the Hill meeting with Mr. Schumer and Ms. Warren, and it makes me wonder who she wants to be independent from. Does she want to be independent from everybody or just independent from Donald J. Trump? So my guess is it is the latter. But I have no comment about Mrs. Warren's comments about me. Yes, sir.
Part of the lawsuit is that, as you just said, that you are a direct report to the president.
Yeah.
Disregarding what Ms. English is doing. Is that a concern at all? You also have a seat on the FDIC board. You have a seat on FSOC.
Yeah.
Role. Should there be any concerns that an independent agency is headed by someone who is a direct report to the president?
You know, my understanding is, first of all, it has to be, number one, that in order for the president to fill this spot using the Vacancies Act, it has to be somebody who is currently Senate confirmed anyway. And my guess is every single person who falls into that would report to the president, number one. And number two, and from a precedential value, this is how it's been done here. I mean, people forget the first acting director was the Treasury Secretary. So I will be as closely tied to Donald Trump as president as Secretary Geithner and Mr. Cordray were to President Obama. I don't think that's anything different about any of the structures. That's why one of the reasons I think that the lawsuit may be ill-founded, because they're sitting here looking at me saying that somehow I'm different when actually it's the same as it's been used before. Yes, sir.
The language in Dodd-Frank actually allows Geithner, the Treasury Secretary, to set up the agency.
Right.
It doesn't provide for anything after that. Just for the record.
I'm sorry, is there a question there?
Well, I'm just saying, so there's no concerns about the independence at all?
No. Again, I will be as independent from Donald Trump in this role as Richard Cordray was and Timothy Geithner were from President Obama. Yes, ma'am.
English, will she be allowed to come into the building if she shows up tomorrow?
Yeah.
And what would her role, in your view, look like if she did come in?
Yeah, to the payday rule, I think I'm getting briefed on the rules and regs tomorrow. I think that's already gone over to the Federal Registry for printing. I'm not really sure, but I'll have more details on that tomorrow. As to Ms. English, yeah, she wants to show up tomorrow. I think she's still employed here. I think her ID is still pretty good. Or is still valid. We've certainly not taken any steps today to terminate her, if that's your question. Yes, sir.
So you said you haven't taken any attempts today. Would you make an attempt in the future to fire Ms.
I honestly don't know the rules. I know what the rules are in the private sector, but when you deal with in the public sector, things are very different. And I don't know if a no-call, no-show for one day justifies termination. So we'll have to find out. Look, we expect people to work. The folks who are here expect people to work. Maybe she took a vacation day, for the long Thanksgiving weekend. I don't know. So we'll find out. But we do expect people to work here. A buddy of mine actually wrote me this morning and said that only in Washington, D.C. could you get sued for actually showing up for work, which is what I got sued for today, apparently. So no, we're gonna go by the book when it comes to dealing with any employee, including Ms. English. Yes, sir, in the back.
Two questions. One about your role as budget director. The American people right now, given that all that you're trying to do and all that Congress has historically failed to do regarding the budget, do people need a full-time budget director? What do you tell people who say, wait a minute, that should be a full-time job?
Oh, no, believe me, being budget director is a full-time job. There's no question about it. This is going to be a heavy workload for the next couple of months or weeks or however long I end up being here. That being said, I'm absolutely comfortable with the team I've put together over at OMB to cover this workload during this whatever period of time this turns out to be. And I'm hopeful to be able to put together a team here at CFPB as well that can do the same thing. I was very encouraged by the quality of the people that I met here today, the professionalism of the folks that I met here today. My guess is, while it's going to be a lot of extra work, we'll be able to do both jobs for a period of time.
And the second question is, been critical of the independence of the Bureau here, or the lack of accountability being the flip side of that.
Right.
But the argument for the independence is that Congress, the federal government, had not done anything, especially during the financial crisis, to push back against the big banks and the large financial institutions. What evidence do you have outside this organization that your administration has done anything to push back against Wall Street like the president promised he would during the campaign?
Yeah, I'm not going to relitigate the causes of the financial crisis and what did and didn't happen, what agencies did their job and what agencies didn't do their job. But looking forward, I do think you've got to raise a question as to what happened here. In fact, I asked this question today of the folks at CFPB, and I hope to get some answers tomorrow. I was disturbed by what happened with Wells Fargo, by what Wells Fargo was doing to their customers. I don't know if you all saw when the CEO of the company came before the House Financial Services Committee a year or so ago that I was on. I know what I want to know is CFPB gets a lot of credit for fining Wells Fargo. My question is, why did they miss it? What was happening here? So here we have, Elizabeth Warren's dream of what an agency is supposed to be, and their ability, their independence, and their ability to go anywhere and do anything and not have to be worried about politicians. They get free money from the Federal Reserve. They don't have to worry about appropriations. They have been given every single tool necessary, I think, from the outside looking in. Okay, maybe I'll find out something different tomorrow when I'm briefed on it. But every single tool necessary to either prevent that from happening at Wells Fargo or at least discovering it. And they did neither of those two things. So the question becomes, can you really regulate out bad behavior? I don't think that you probably can. Are we going to fill an important role here to make sure we are looking over the shoulder of folks who are trying to take advantage of consumers? Absolutely. We are going to continue in that function. At the same time, to think that the CFPB is going to prevent the next financial crisis is probably a little naive. If it couldn't prevent Wells Fargo, you have to worry about that.
You have an obligation beyond simply criticizing this organization as part of President Trump's cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do to fill that void that you just talked about? What are you going to do?
Yeah, going to find first. That's a fair question. Going to find out why. Again, I asked that issue today, and the folks here took it very seriously. I hope to get briefed tomorrow on the background of the Wells Fargo and a couple other things that have gone down in the last couple of years to find out what went wrong. if anything went wrong, and to figure out how we can fix that so that we can stop that kind of stuff next time. I think that's what any good director would do in these circumstances. Yeah, anybody who hasn't asked a question yet? Yes, ma'am.
One of the things the administration has pointed to as evidence that you should be in this position is this memo from Counsel Mary McLeod. Was there any coordination between the White House and the council, or any conversations before she put that out?
Not that I know of. In fact, I didn't even know the DOJ was working on theirs until it came out. Yes, sir. Last question.
Would you rule out meeting with Ms. English if she does show up?
No. No, I mean, no, not at all. So, all right. Thanks, y'all, very much. We'll keep you on the loop as anything develops tomorrow. Appreciate your time.